profoundly grateful to the exalted personalities who have so mercifully welcomed us to this most holy place, Sri Rangam, which is Vaikuntha, the abode of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And I am most grateful to all of the assembled devotees who have underwent some degree of inconvenience, disorganization, and suffering to be here. But please know that the fruit of any great spiritual benefits only comes through the practice of tapasya. Tapodivyam putra kayena sattvam. Human life is especially meant for the purpose of tapasya. A wonderful truth is, on the path of bhakti, even tapasya is our greatest joy when we remember Lord Narayan. Narayana parobhya. What is that verse? Narayanam Narayan. Smarga pavarga narakeshu apito nirvadarsha. Narayana parasarave nakutashchana vidyate. Smarga pavarga narakeshu apito nirvadarsha. This is the symptom of a true devotee of Lord Narayan. Whether they are in heaven, enjoying all comfortable facilities, or whether they're in hell, suffering the torments of unbelievable pain, the devotee is the same, because the devotee's only interest is in the service of the Lord, in remembering the Lord. The great Acharya Bhakti Vinod Thakur, he prayed that, my dear Lord, the inconveniences and sufferings that I undergo in rendering service to you are the greatest blessings and the greatest pleasures of my life. Tatra tatra jagat guru bhavato darshanam yatsyat apunar bhavadarshana. And Queen Kunti prayed, let troubles and calamities come upon me, because in that condition I remember you, my Lord. And in remembering you, I no longer have to see the repetition of birth and death. So it is this grateful heart that is the real symptom of a devotee. And during our yatras, when difficulties may come upon us, even if it may be someone's fault, that is not going to help you spiritually. But if you take it for your own purification, it's the mercy of the Lord, and take shelter of the Lord in that situation, then you are a real Vaishnava, and you will really benefit. Every situation is an opportunity to come closer to God, but we have our free will. whether we are willing to accept or reject that opportunity. Today, this reception is something that is quite extraordinary. The reception was really for the person who deserves it. My beloved Guru Maharaj, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. He has taken the message of Lord Krishna and the previous acharyas and realized its essence in the very core of his heart. Srila Prabhupada took the blessings and the grace of all the great acharyas of Sri Guru Parampara, of the Vaishnava line, and spread all over the world. Srila Prabhupada is in the disciplic succession of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Madhva Brahma Gaudiya Sampradaya. But Lord Chaitanya, with the deepest honor and respect, he worshipped all of the great acharyas of the four sampradayas and took the essence of their teachings and Sripad Ramanujacharya of Sri Sampradaya is one of the most prominent great teachers of the world in history. In fact, our own beloved Gurudev and his Gurudev, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, they have quoted, cited, and worshipped Ramanujacharya again and again for his extraordinary, merciful contribution to the world. It was Srila Prabhupada who took this message of worship of the Supreme Lord Krishna, or Narayan, and brought it to every continent of the world. And millions of people, their hearts were transformed. And today we see just one little part of a drop from the ocean of Srila Prabhupada's great work, where 2,000 devotees from various parts of the world have come here to worship Sri Ranganath in Sri Ranga Kshetra. Lord Chaitanya taught us that two of the very prominent teachings of Sripad Ramanujacharya that we hold so dear and worshipable in our hearts is that the goal of life is pure bhakti. Bhakti that is not mixed with either jnana or karma. Pure bhakti is not concerned with worshipping God for any material benefits, for any mystic powers, or even for liberation. Pure bhakti is only the loving service for the pleasure of the Lord. Samsadhir Haritosha. no other purpose but to please God. Narayana parasarve nakutashthana bhikyate swaraka pavaraka narakeshu apitulyartha darshana. We don't mind being in hell, we don't mind being in heaven, we only want to please Krishna. That is message of Sripad Ramanujacharya. At the time, due to the influence of Buddhism and then the powerful teachings of Shankaracharya, people were studying the scriptures, performing tapasya, and living with the ultimate goal of mukti, merging into the Brahman aspect of the absolute truth. But from the point of view of Sripad Ramanujacharya, that is also a selfish desire, wanting to be free from the sufferings of this world. One of the last teachings of Sri Ramanujacharya to his disciples was, do not be concerned with all of the phenomena of this material world that is going around you. And do not be so concerned with going to the spiritual world either. Simply be concerned with performing your service for the pleasure of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This pure, unalloyed devotional service was so strongly established by Sripad Ramanujacharya. So rare. But in order to do so, he had to smash the misconceptions of Mayavad philosophy. Because as long as a trace of that influence is in our heart, the desire for pure devotional service cannot truly awaken. Jivara Swarupoi Krishnera Nityadas, we are eternal servants of God. And another very sacred principle of Sripad Ramanujacharya's teachings is the supreme glory of serving and worshipping the Vaishnavas. Das, das, anu, das. Sripad Ramanujacharya lived by this principle. He taught this principle. And all of his disciples, they accepted this principle as their very life and soul. To honor and serve the Vaishnavas. Today, the reception that we have just seen gives great joy to our hearts, because we have seen how the great followers of Sripad Ramanujacharya here in Sri Rangam hold this principle so dear to their lives of honoring and serving the Vaishnavas. They are setting such an outstanding example that we should all meditate upon and learn from. The Vaishnav they are honoring and worshipping is Srila Prabhupada, for taking the message of Ramanujacharya, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and all the acharyas around the world. And my only qualification to accept this honor on behalf of Srila Prabhupada is that by his causeless mercy, I am struggling to become a single particle of dust on the feet of the servants of the servants of the servants of my beloved Guru Maharaj. I have no other qualification. When the great Quraysh came to Sri Rangam, the pujaris of that time, they would not allow any of the followers of Ramanujacharya into the temple. This is during the reign of the king Kolatunga I. However, Quraysh was such an embodiment of oceanic good qualities that they decided to make an exception and allow him in the temple. But Quraysh, he would not enter. He said that whatever good qualifications I have are only by the mercy of my Guru Maharaj, Sripad Ramanujacharya. Otherwise I have no qualifications. To see any qualification in me that is separate from him is cheating. It's an illusion. The only qualification we could long for is to be the servant of the servant of the servant. During Sripad Ramanujacharya's last days here in Sri Rangam, Danurdas, who was of a lower caste by birth, but who had deep devotion, Danurdas became one of the most close associates of Sripad Ramanujacharya. He asked a question that Vibhishan, the younger brother of Ravan of Sri Lanka, he approached Lord Sri Ramchandra. And even though Lord Ramchandra's associates suspected him, they had suspicions, in fact they were ready to arrest him. They did not trust him to come before the Lord, being the brother of the enemy. But Lord Ramachandra called Vibhishan and his 4 associates to come to him. Vibhishan surrendered to Sri Ramchandra unconditionally. So Danurdas, he asked this question, that Vibhishan was purely in the mode of goodness. Even though he had a controversial past, he had a pure heart. He had no envy, he had no duplicity. Therefore, when he surrendered at the lotus feet of Sri Ramchandra, Ramchandra accepted him immediately. But what is our position? We do not have this goodness. We have duplicity, we have envy. We have so many ill qualities. What is our qualification? How will we ever be accepted by the Supreme Lord in our attempts to surrender to Him? Have any of you ever felt like this? Vibhishan's surrender was pure. But ours is mixed. So how will the Lord accept us? Sripad Ramanujacharya gave the reply. He said Vibhishan had 4 associates that came with him. They were not pure. But because of Vibhishan's surrender, Lord Ramchandra accepted them also. simply because of their connection to Vibhishan. This is parampara. We cannot approach the Lord directly because our hearts are not pure. However, if we somehow or other hold on to the dust of the lotus feet of those who are pure, then by the Lord's mercy He will accept us also. Ramanujacharya said, not the Muni, he surrendered to the Lord. And Yamunacharya surrendered to the Lord. And because we are in the disciplic line of them trying to serve them, their surrender is our only qualification. We simply must honestly and earnestly try to live by their instructions. Ramanujacharya, he lived for approximately 60 years here in Sri Rangam. In fact, the house that he resided is just a 3-minute walk from where we are sitting now. We will all go to that place. He wrote 9 books. He established 74 initiating gurus and initiated 700 sannyasis. In his last days, he gave precious instructions. He lived for well over 100 years. Spent his last days here in Sri Rangam. He said that the holy name is the essence. The highest goal is unmotivated devotional service. Attachment to the spiritual master, guru, is the means by which we can attain that goal. And the worst enemy is offenses to God and the devotees. Bhagavat aparad and Vaishnava aparad. And Ramanujacharya gave an example which must be understood in proper perspective. That even the greatest, supreme, most pure souls, sometimes they act in such a way that we conditioned souls can learn lessons from, although they are spotless. He said Sita Devi, who is the all-pure, supreme goddess of fortune, when Maricha, in the form of a deer, allured Ram away, Lakshman was ordered by the Lord to remain with Sita to protect her. But Maricha the demon, he knew exactly how to create chaos. When he was shot by Lord Sri Ramchandra, he cried out in an identical voice that sounded like Sri Ram. Lakshman, Lakshman, come, help me, Lakshman, help me, Lakshman, Lakshman. Now Lakshman understood that the Lord doesn't need any help from anyone. But Sita was in the sweet mood of lover. And for the purpose of the Yogamaya Lila of the Lord, she felt very concerned for the safety of her beloved. She ordered Lakshman, go now, and help my beloved. He said, there is no danger. That is just a hoax. I will stay here with you. And just out of her love for Ram, she accused Lakshman of having ill motivations for staying with her. And her words deeply hurt the heart of Lakshman. And then he went, on her order, to join Ram. Now Ramanujacharya explains, because Sita hurt the heart of Lakshman in that way, because she performed that aparad, she had to live in Sri Lanka with Ravana and the Rakshasas for 10 months. So we must be very, very careful in what we say and what we do in relation to the Lord and His devotees. During Ramchandra's time, Vivida was one of the greatest soldiers fighting for Sri Ram. But because he felt envy and acted inappropriate toward Lakshman, he became a demon. Vivida gorilla in Krishna's Leela. And became so offensive to Balaram that Balaram had no recourse but to punch him and liberate him from his offenses. However, Ramanujacharya told his devotees in his last days, even if a devotee makes an offense, if that devotee understands and from the heart begs forgiveness, then all Vaishnavas should honor and deeply appreciate that devotee's forgiveness. And he should be, or she should be, forgiven. Any offense can be nullified if we feel deep remorse and beg forgiveness from the devotee we offended before the Lord, and then chant His holy name. Sripad Ramanujacharya's message to his devotees in his last days was to worship Lord Ranganath, to be united with Vaishnavas and serve the devotees with great care, to study the Vaishnava scriptures, and to guard against offenses. One day, Ramanujacharya brought the son of Kuresh, Parasarabhatir, in front of the deity of Sri Ranganath. And prayed to Sri Ranganath to empower him to be the Acharya of the Sri Sampradaya. At that time, one of the pujaris came to give garland to Ramanujacharya, but he had the pujari give the garland to Parasarabhatir. And Ramanujacharya took the prasad of his disciple, just to establish the position of his successor. he placed Parasara on the Vyasasan, put garland on him, and embraced him with tears of love, and told all the devotees to accept him as his representative. Then on the last day of Ramanujacharya's physical life in this world, he gave wonderful instructions to his devotees. Then he fed a wonderful feast to all the Vaishnavas. With folded hands, he begged forgiveness. He begged forgiveness from the pujaris, because Ramanujacharya was very strict about the execution of Pancharatriki Vidhi, following the proper rules and regulations in the service of the Lord. Why? All these rules, all these regulations, all these rituals are only for one purpose: to give pleasure to the Lord. As long as we are on a conditioned state trying to serve, we must serve following in the footsteps of great souls. So for a real devotee, when we perform these rituals and chant these mantras, what are we really doing? Unfortunately, sometimes people consider the ritual to be a thing of itself. It is called Smarta Brahman. Learn many mantras, many purifications. Mantra, Tantra, Yatra, Mudra. In this way, if you do not do that correctly, then you are useless. But in the line of Sripad Ramanujacharya, we find Kanchipurna. He did not know the rituals so well. He did not know all the mantras so well. He was from a Shudra birth. But he found the Lord with such simplicity and such purity that the Lord spoke to him. The Lord revealed the innermost feelings of his heart to Kanchipurna. Whereas other Brahmins who are chanting mantras and doing all the mudras and mantra, tantra, yantra, so many pujas, sometimes the Lord does not only not talk to them, but the Lord does not even care to accept their offerings. Patram pushpam palam toyam yome bhakta prayachtat. Krishna tells in Gita that even if you offer me a leaf, a flower, a fruit or water, if it is offered with devotion, I will accept. Krishna accepts our devotion. Srila Prabhupada, he explains that Krishna does not accept the thing you offer. Krishna accepts the purpose, the intention in which you offer it. If it is offered with love, Krishna accepts that love. And Krishna becomes indebted to the love of his devotee. So all of these rituals of the Pancharatriki Vidhi and all of the mantras, we should see them this way. That by following them, we are humbling ourselves before the previous acharyas. This is the way they are telling us to do it. So even if we have little realization, it should be a feeling of humility. I cannot approach the Lord directly. I am approaching through the path of the previous acharyas. Mahajano yena gata sapanta. And if this is how the previous acharyas are telling us, the type of respect, the type of honor, the type of purity and cleanliness, internally and externally, it is our humble offering to follow in this way. And then all of the rituals, mantra, tantra, yantra, mudra, pudra, they all become glorious offerings of bhakti, devotion. So Ramanujacharya begged forgiveness of pujaris, that I have given you many rules to follow, and it may have given you some inconvenience. He begged forgiveness with folded hands from all of his disciples, from his godbrothers, with tears in his eyes, and a genuinely humble heart. He begged forgiveness from everyone with folded palms. And his disciples, tears were bursting from their eyes. Dear Gurudev, why are you begging forgiveness from us? Everything you have done is perfect. Everything you have taught us, everything you have done for us is the unconditional mercy of the Lord. You are the world. You have spread bhakti throughout the world. Why are you begging forgiveness from us? But Sripad Ramanujacharya, from the core of his heart, demonstrated the natural humility of a great soul. Our Param Guru, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, in his last evening before he departed from this world, he also folded his hands with tears in his eyes and begged forgiveness from everyone. And our beloved Guru Maharaj, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, also followed in the footsteps of these great souls. From his heart of hearts, with tears in his eyes, he begged forgiveness for any offense he had committed to anyone. Prabhupada said, sometimes I used harsh words like rascal. But I did it only for the service of the Lord. But still, if I have hurt anyone's heart, I beg forgiveness. After begging forgiveness from all the devotees and all living entities, Ramanujacharya gave his last instruction. All of you serve Lord Ranganath with sincere love and devotion, and live cooperatively with all the Vaishnavas. Let that be your happiness. How our Guru Maharaj followed in footsteps. That was also his last instruction. To worship the Lord, to chant the holy name of the Lord, and to live cooperatively with devotees. And make that our happiness. Love means our happiness is the Lord's happiness. And this is the Lord's happiness. When He sees devotees are humble and cooperative with one another in a mood of service. Trinarapi suniche nataror ibasahishnuna amanina manadena kirtaniya sadahari. To be humble like a blade of grass, tolerant like a tree, eager to offer all respect to all others, and expect no respect for oneself. In this way, Krishna will be pleased and empower us to constantly chant His holy name. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. After speaking these words, Sripad Ramanujacharya laid his head in the lap of his beloved cousin brother Govinda, who was initiated as sannyasi by him. With his head in the lap of Govinda and his feet on the lap of his loyal, faithful servant Andrapurna, he called for the devotees. All the devotees loudly chanted Vedic mantras, his favorite passages of the scriptures, and many chanted around him the holy names of the Lord. The tumultuous sound of the holy names surrounded Sripad Ramanujacharya. And then he asked the devotees to bring the sandals of his Guru Mahapurna, and set the sandals before him, and he gazed on the feet of his Guru Maharaj with his eyes. And in his heart of hearts, he meditated on the lotus feet of his most beloved spiritual master, Sri Yamunacharya. And in that most auspicious setting, surrounded by the glorification of the holy name, Sripad Ramanujacharya gave up his life. The devotees were weeping and crying. Some were even considering suicide, but Ramanujacharya had previously forbid them to do so. When we were at Ramanujacharya's birthplace, we told the story how some of the devotees, they were so attached to him, they lived in his association for so long. How will we survive when you leave this world? Sripad Ramanujacharya said, I am living through my instructions, and those who follow my instructions are living with me always. But for those of you who are very deeply attached to my physical form, I will be here with you. And here at Sri Rangam, he called some sculptures to make a deity, which was a replica of Ramanujacharya. Sripad Ramanujacharya embraced that deity and breathed upon that deity, and giving his own life into that deity, the Archavigraha. And he sent that deity to his birthplace, Sri Urambudur. On the day it was installed, Ramanujacharya began to cry blood from his eyes, just to emphasize that he is ever living in that deity. It was at noon, on the 10th day of the bright fortnight of the month of Magh, that Sripad Ramanujacharya, in the most exemplary way, gave up his life here in Sri Rangam. His intimate disciples, Dasarathi and others, they performed the ceremony of the Samadhi. They placed his body under the ground and covered it with sand. Just this morning, one very kind sannyasi invited us to take prasad in the very home of Srimad Ramanujacharya. And he told us this story about Ramanujacharya's Samadhi ceremony. Would you like to hear? He explained that they buried the body of Ramanujacharya, but sometime later Ramanujacharya's body came up again and formed a deity, which is presently in his Samadhi Mandir, just behind where we are sitting. By his mercy, we will visit that Samadhi Mandir this evening to worship him and honor him. This was in the year 1137. Parasarabhata, who was identified by Ramanujacharya to be the son of Sri Ranganath and Lakshmi, who was born in this world as the son of Kuresh and his wife Andal. Very gloriously carried on the tradition of mercy of his Guru Maharaj. Although he was Acharya, with hundreds and thousands of people bowing down to him, honoring him, I would like to just cite 2 or 3 examples of his humility. He was so deeply learned in the scriptures. We know here in Sri Rangam, Ramanujacharya revealed the 3 unfulfilled missions of Yamunacharya. One is to write a commentary on Vedanta Sutra, establishing Vashishta Dvaita Vad, Srivasya. 2 was to spread the teachings of devotion to the personality of Godhead throughout India. And 3 was to honor the speaker of Vishnu Purana, Sri Parasara Muni. Sripad Ramanujacharya fulfilled all of these desires of his Guru Maharaj. How wonderful when we relate this to our own Guru Maharaj. When Srila Prabhupada was just a young man, recently married, he was given an instruction by his spiritual master. Take the message of Lord Chaitanya, take the message of the previous acharyas, and spread it throughout the whole world in the English language. One day Srila Prabhupada was reading Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary of Bhagavad Gita. He read the particular verse, Vyavashayatmaka budhir ekeha kurunandana, bahushaka hirantascha budhayo vyavashayanam. That those who are on this path, they are resolute in purpose, and their aim is one. The intelligence of those who are irresolute is many-branched. A devotee must be fixed. A devotee must be focused. A devotee must be absorbed. And what is that absorption? To make the order of the spiritual master one's life and soul. These are very strong words. We speak them, but do we really contemplate deeply within us what it means to make the order of the spiritual master our life and our soul. That means our everything. There's nothing else. It is the substance of our existence. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he established Krishna consciousness throughout India. But he asked his disciples all over the world. And although Srila Prabhupada did it, he never ever took credit. He always said, it was whatever I have done, it is only by the mercy of my Guru Maharaj. It is his instruction was the power that fulfilled this great mission. I am just the puppet. I am just the instrument. So Parasarabhata, he was named by Ramanujacharya this name to fulfill Yamunacharya's wish. And he was made Acharya. There was a beautiful verse that he would chant every day. He would go in front of the altar of the different alvars and in front of the altar of Sri Ranganath. It was a verse condemning himself, written by Sripad Jamunacharya, that I am wicked, I am cruel, I am envious, I am full of lust, I am full of greed, I have all these bad qualifications. In this condition, my Lord, I have no other hope except taking shelter of you. He would repeat this prayer from his heart in humility. But there was one man who was very envious of Parasarabhata. In fact, he hated Parasarabhata. And when Parasara would stand before the altar and say, my Lord, I am wicked, this man would loudly declare behind him, Satyam, it is true. And then he would say before the Lord, I am filled with greed, Satyam, it is true. He would cry out, my Lord, I am just an abode of lust. And he would cry out, Satyam, true. I am envious of others, Satyam, true. And everyone was hearing. And after he recited all of these confessions of all of his bad qualities, he turned around and offered his obeisances to the person who was declaring that everything he was saying was true. From his heart, with great humility and gratitude, he offered his obeisances to that man, who was just spreading throughout. Not only was he saying it behind him, but he was spreading it. Parasara is admitting that he's lusty and he's envious and he's greedy, and it's all true. It's coming from his own mouth. He was spreading this horrible propaganda. Parasara, he did not argue with him. He offered his obeisances with him, with a grateful heart. And this person, in front of the deity, he said, why are you offering obeisances to me? I hate you. I'm blaspheming you. Why are you offering obeisances to me? And Parasarabhata did not speak to him. He spoke to Lord Ranganath. He said, "My dear Lord, I have been telling you that I have all these bad qualities and how much I need your mercy. But you haven't believed me, so you haven't given me your full mercy. But today, I have a witness. So you should give me your full mercy." When that envious rascal heard Parasara speak that to the Lord with such humility, then that person fell at Parasara's feet and surrendered and became his disciple. Another time, Parasara, Yatra, son of Kuresh, disciple of Sripad Ramanujacharya, was sitting on asana in front of many people giving a class. During his pravachan, one person just very harshly stood up and chastised him with very critical language in front of everybody. Now what would you do? Parasara very gratefully called that man forward and offered him precious gifts. He offered him prasad of golden necklaces and garlands. And everybody in the audience was bewildered. They said, "Why are you honoring this person who is publicly blaspheming you and chastising you?" Parasara Bhatter replied that he is doing my job for me. He's actually doing my job for me. So I do owe him a great debt. He says, "I have 3 duties. My 3 duties: 1, to glorify the Lord; 2, to glorify the devotees of the Lord; and 3, to confess my own bad qualities." Now in this lecture, I'm so busy glorifying the Lord and the devotees of the Lord, I forgot to confess my own bad qualities. But he is doing that for me. So therefore he is doing a great service. And I owe him this honor. Amanina, manadena. To offer all respect to others and expect none in return. It is perhaps the most difficult thing to do in this material world, from the heart. But unless we can, we are not truly a Vaishnava. Lord Chaitanya said that this Vaishnava etiquette is the ornament that makes a devotee beautiful in the eyes of God. Another time, a procession was going on, and during that time, a dog ran onto Ranganath's altar. Hare Krishna. So the pujaris considered the altar is now contaminated. So they called the acharya, Parasara Bhatter, and said, "You should be present now as we sanctify the entire altar with cow dung mixture and other mantras to make it clean, because a dog walked on the altar." And while this was going on, Parasara Bhatter, with tears in his eyes and folded palms, he offered a prayer to Lord Ranganath. He said, Why is this necessary? Washing the whole altar when a dog comes on. Because I've come on so many times, and I am lower than this dog. Why do we not perform this whole ritual every time I come? He did not say this to the world, he said this to the Lord. Because although he was the great Acharya of our whole Sri Sampradaya, this was the genuine feeling of his heart. That he was lower than a dog. Mahajano yena gatasa bandha. To follow in the footsteps of these great souls is the real path of perfection. We find in the great Shivananda saying, when a dog joined the entourage going from Bengal to Puri, he was feeding it prasad every day. Special type of prasad. Rice. And when his servants forgot to feed the dog and the dog ran away, Shivananda saying considered that he made a great offense. And when he did see the dog in Puri, he bowed down to the lotus paws of the dog. And he saw Lord Chaitanya throwing coconut pulp from his mouth. Lord Mahaprabhu ate the pulp and threw it, and the dog caught it and ate it. And Lord Chaitanya was telling the dog, say Krishna, Krishna. And the dog was chanting, Krishna, Krishna. And the next day that dog was nowhere to be seen. Why? It had gone to Vaikuntha. What was that dog's qualification? It became the object of Shivananda Sain's love. When a great soul shows compassion to someone, that person becomes the special object of Krishna's mercy. That is our only hope. To think that we are qualified is a great disqualification. To think that we are unqualified is our qualification. But to think we're unqualified, truthfully, means we must take shelter. To say that you're unqualified is not a difficult thing to do. But if you really believe it, then with all humility you will take shelter. And that is what bhakti is about. Daivi heshu gunamayi mamma maya duratyaya mam evam ye prapadyante maya me tattaranti. This material nature is impossible for us to overcome. But if we take shelter, we can do. But we can only take shelter when we genuinely are humble. That is bhakti. Yes, Ramanujacharya taught that by his life, and he taught that in how he disappeared from this world here at Sri Rangam. And all of his great associates, they also illustrated this principle. And in our Gaudiya Sampradaya, we find that principle consistent in its most developed state in our beloved Acharyas. Thakur Haridas, when he was offered any benediction, he asked, let me be a dog or an insect near the house of a devotee, so that I can get the food remnants that has been touched by those devotees. And then he cried, such audacity, how could I ask for something so exalted? Like a dwarf wanting to touch the moon, I'm asking for something so high. But his humility was so genuine, the Lord and all the devotees wept and showered supreme mercy upon him. Just close to where we are is Chandra Pushkarini, very ancient pukur, or lake of water, filled with fish. During Ramanujacharya's Lila, one day he came unassumingly and washed his hands in that lake. And as soon as he touched the water became so sanctified that in front of everyone's eyes, every one of the fish they arose from the water, manifested perfect four-arm forms, and ascended to Vaikuntha. I was told that one of my godbrothers, Achyutananda Swami, he came here in the early 1970s, and he was told that story by one of the pujaris, and immediately he jumped in the water. Just dove in the water. But I think we have to be as humble as those fish were to really receive that mercy. I would like to briefly tell some of the history of this temple, with your permission. In the beginning of the creation, please know, every day of Brahma, the creation is manifested. And every night when he takes rest, a vast portion of the universe is inundated by a pralaya, or flood. And then he wakes up and he has to recreate a lot every morning. That is Brahma's seva. So there's a beautiful story of how in the causal ocean, Lord Narayan was laying down in his yoga nidra, which is like a mystic spiritual sleep. From his navel sprouted a wonderful lotus flower, golden lotus flower with thousands of petals. In the whirl of that lotus flower, Lord Brahma took birth. His name is Atmabhu, which means he is born directly from the Lord. Lord Brahma did not know where he was, or who he was, or what he was supposed to do. There was only darkness all around. But the Lord revealed to him that he should perform tapasya and chant the holy names. Lord Brahma performed tapasya. In this particular occasion, according to the Sri Rangam Mahatmya, the Lord appeared as a swan, Hamsa, and revealed the truth to him. So after performing his tapasya, he was given transcendental knowledge. The four Vedas were manifested to him by the will of the Lord. And his power to be the secondary creator within this universe. He started creating the Brahmins, the Kshatriyas, the Vaishyas, the Shudras. He started creating the sages and the rishis and various manifestations within this universal creation. But suddenly, from his ears, two horrible demons manifested. Madhu and Kaitaiva. These miserable demons stole the Vedas from Brahma. Now please know that at that time the Vedas were not written books. The Vedas were within Brahma's heart, within his mind. They actually stole the remembrance of the Vedas from him. It was a subtle thievery. In taking the Vedas from Brahma, he couldn't do anything anymore. He became powerless. And he could not face Kaitava and Madhu because although they were born of him, they were so powerful. So in that condition, Lord Brahma took shelter of the Lord, Sri Narayan. This is very important. Even in the execution of our duties to the Lord, we are absolutely dependent on the Lord. The Prabhupada explained, what is the best we could do in our life? We can take water from the Ganges and offer it back to Mother Ganges. Is that something very great? Everything's coming from Krishna. He's the source of our intelligence. He's the strength. He's the source of everything that exists. Whatever we have to serve the Lord, we are getting from the Lord. Krishna doesn't need anything. But if we just take from him and offer it back to him, if we offer it with love, then Krishna becomes satisfied. So much satisfied if it is offered with pure love, he's Bhaktavatsal. He becomes subordinate to that love. Yashoda Mai, her love was so great, she could bind Krishna, imprison him. The Gopas of Vrindavan, their love was so great, they could defeat him in wrestling. And the Gopis, their love is so great that Krishna is confessing to them, I have no way to repay your love. You've given up everything for me. You've given up your homes, you've given up your safety, you've given up your social status, you've given your lives, wholesale, unconditionally, only for my pleasure. Even in an entire lifetime of Brahma, I cannot repay you. So please be satisfied with your own glorious devotional service. That is the Lord's nature. He is conquered by love, although he is unconquerable. So even when we're trying to serve the Lord, we should not think that we're doing the Lord a favor. We're just trying to please the Lord. Whether we're offering the Lord 100 crores of rupees or whether we're offering him a flower. Prabhupada said, Krishna doesn't see what you give. He sees how much you're holding back. What you're keeping for yourself is very much how Krishna determines our devotional service. Sarva dharman parityajya mamekam sharanam praja aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayishami masucha. Abandon all varieties of dharma. Just surrender to me. At the time of death, Krishna is not going to determine your destination by how much wealth you're leaving behind for your children. At the time of death, Krishna's consideration is how much you have surrendered to Him of your body, your mind, your life, your soul, your everything for His pleasure. That's all. And that is reality. So Brahma was in a fix. Maru Kaitaiba, they were causing havoc. They were actually interfering with the entire creation because they stole the Vedas. So Brahma prayed to the Lord, and the Lord appeared as Matsyavatar. And Brahma explained to him what happened. And then Matsyavatar said, "We will protect you." And then the Lord appeared in the form of Hayagriva, a man and horse in one form. And Hayagriva dove into the ocean and caught Kaitava and Madhu and Kaitava, and there was a tremendous fight that took place, which is described in the Puranas. And ultimately, Hayagriva Bhagavan was victorious and restored the Vedas to Lord Brahma. Yeah. And thus gave hope and light to the whole world. Lord Brahma wanted so much to see the original form of Mahavishnu. So he was told to go to the banks of the ocean of milk to perform tapasya and chant the holy names. Om Namo Narayanaya. Om Namo Narayanaya. So for over 1,000 celestial years, Lord Brahma sat on the shore of the ocean of milk, chanting the names of the Lord, fasting, not even sleeping, just fixed with a purpose. He wanted to see the Lord. And from the ocean of milk arose a beautiful golden Vimana, surrounded by the four Kumaras, Gandharvas, Apsaras, and all other great personalities, great sages and rishis and divine beings. Ananta, Shesh, and Garuda, they were fanning with chamaras and offering all sorts of songs and gifts. Inside the Vimana, Lord Brahma had the darshan of Sri Rangam. That is how this deity appeared within the universe. Self-manifested deity. Timeless. Appeared by his own sweet will after 1,000 celestial years of tapasya in loving devotion by Brahma. So this deity became Lord Brahma's life and soul. He built a beautiful temple and installed Sri Ranganath in Satyaloka, which is the topmost planet of the spiritual world. There are 14 planetary systems above this earth: Bhuloka, Bhuvarloka, Swargaloka, Mahaloka, Janaloka, Tapaloka, and Satyaloka, the abode of Lord Brahma. For a long time he worshipped this deity. And then he made Pujari Suryadev, the presiding deity of the sun. And Suryadev later on gave responsibility of worshipping on behalf of Brahma to his son by Vishwat Manu. And later on, the puja was offered to the son of Manu, Ikshvaku. Now Ikshvaku he had his kingdom in Ayodhya, in this world, descendant of the solar dynasty. And Ikshvaku was thinking that now all of my relatives, my father, Vaivasvatmanu, my grandfather, Surya, my great-grandfather, Brahma, they can easily go to Satyaloka to have darshan and do the puja. But in the future, my descendants will not have the power to go to Satyaloka. And I want them to be able to worship this deity. So Ikshvaku had a very, very deep longing to bring Ranganath from Satyaloka to the earth planet. And in order to do so, he performed very, very serious austerities. Would you like to hear some of them? Are you sure? When you hear about these austerities, you may feel ashamed of yourselves if you're complaining about not getting your rooms on time, or prasad not being served properly, or the buses taking too long, or uncooperative bus drivers. Now, from my side, I fall in the dust of the feet of each and every one of you and apologize for any inconvenience, because ultimately it's my fault, because I am the one who invited all of you to this yatra. We're trying. I'm very small and I cannot do things very well. But we beg forgiveness for inconvenience. That's from my side. But from your side, please compare your inconvenience to what Ikshvaku did in order to see Lord Ranganath. You had a little inconvenience and you're going to see Lord Ranganath in a few minutes. In fact, it's 1:08, very auspicious. During the summer, Ikshvaku lit 5 blazing fires around him and sat directly under the sun and meditated on the lotus feet of the Lord. During the rainy season, he just sat right in the rain and just had one wet rag around his body for 4 months. Before I continue, one thing. Before I continue, the most important part of this lecture is my very, very deep gratitude to Murali Bhatt. Tomorrow, with your permission, we will discuss Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's South Indian tour. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to South India, he stopped in Rangakshetra. And I'm just going to be 1 minute, but please stay for 1 more minute. He danced in ecstasy before the deity of Ranganath. And large crowds came to see the beautiful golden form of the Lord, loudly chanting the holy name. And after the kirtan, one very pure, exalted Brahmin of the name Venkat Bhatt fell at Lord Chaitanya's feet and invited him to come to his home. Lord Chaitanya came to his home. Venkata Bhatta washed the Lord's feet and then sprinkled that water on his head and drank it and fed it to all of his family members. Some of his family members, Trimala Bhatt, Prabodhananda Saraswati was his brother, and his son, was Gopal Bhatt, who later became the great Gopal Bhatt Goswami. Venkata Bhatta had such deep and pure devotion. He invited Lord Chaitanya to remain in his house for 4 months. Now this is extraordinary, because according to Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami and Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Lord Chaitanya's principle was he would stay in a place for 1 night, and then the next morning after taking bath he would travel to another place. But in reciprocation for the love of these 3 brothers and their child, Trimala Bhatt, Prabodhananda Saraswati, and Venkata Bhatt, Lord Chaitanya resided in their house for 4 months. We will describe some of the stories of his stay in Sri Rangam tomorrow. But Venkata Bhatt became a dear, most loving associate of Lord Chaitanya. And his son became one of the 6 Goswamis. And his brother became one of the most exalted authors of Vaishnava literatures in the history of the Gaudiya Sampradaya. When I first came to Sri Rangam in 1983 with my dear godbrother, His Grace Gaur Keshav Prabhu and Pushkar Prabhu, we stayed at the house of Rangaraj Bhatt. The same house that Lord Chaitanya lived in. And the son of the great Rangaraj Bhatt, who fought very hard to give ISKCON devotees and even foreign devotees the rights to have the darshan of Ranganath. There was resistance. That how can people born in Malaysia and Yavana backgrounds come in before the Lord? But Rangaraj Bhatt, being a true descendant of Venkata Bhatt, who received such causeless mercy of Lord Chaitanya, he actually established the policy where all ISKCON devotees from all over the world could freely come in and take darshan. And Murli Bhatt is the son of Rangaraj Bhatt. He is a descendant of Venkata Bhatt and a relative, a loving relative of Srila Gopal Bhatta Goswami. And today we see how he is following in the footsteps so nicely of his father and his great forefathers. Not only is he allowing foreigners in the temple, but he's giving such honors to foreigner in public, simply because they are trying to be a speck of dust at the lotus feet of the servants of Srila Prabhupada. So I cannot tell you what an honor and what a joy it is to be receiving the love and the affection of this extraordinary personality, Murli Bhatt. And he has such a humble service attitude. Not only has he arranged all of this wonderful reception, I don't even know what this is. I've never seen one before. But such a wonderful, loving reception. Huh? Thank you for enlightening me. But right now, where he's going is he's going because he's one of the head pujaris of this temple. One of the head pujaris of this temple. He's going right now in his loving service attitude to arrange an exclusive darshan for all of us with Sri Ranganath. deepest heartfelt gratitude to Sri Murali Bhatt. And later today, with Lord Ranganath's mercy, we will pass his house, which is exactly the same house that Lord Chaitanya stayed in. Same pillars, same everything. Yes? The only thing different is they painted some places. They have retiled the floors slightly, but otherwise they preserved the house in the exact state that Lord Chaitanya remained for 4 months. From our heart of hearts, we thank you and your family very, very, very much. Where did we leave off? Yes, we left off with having difficulty getting your room this night. And uncooperative bus drivers. So Ikshvaku, in the winter season, when it was very cold, he would go to cold places. And he would go under ice-cold, freezing water up to his neck and remain there without coming out for the entire 4 months of the winter season. Very severe austerities. So Indra was thinking that anyone who was doing these austerities must want to take away my opulences. Because it is the nature of life in this world. What to speak of humans? Even the demigods have this natural conditioning. That whatever we're attached to, we become very possessive of it, and we become very fearful of losing it. You remember, 2 days back we were discussing Quraysh. He was a very wealthy man. His name was Quraysh because he was the king of the whole province of Qura. Mass landowner. Beautiful home. He was giving abundant charity, anything anybody wanted, from sunrise till after sunset every day. But when Lakshmi Devi wanted to see him for his charitable works, he felt ashamed. Why should she want to see me for my charity? Everything I have is hers. So he gave everything away to the Brahmins and left with his wife wearing the clothes of mendicants to come to Sri Rangam, because he felt so much contaminated by the show-bottle charity he was giving. This is his mentality. I'm just doing show-bottle charity. I should just stop all this and purify myself by going to Sri Rangam and living like a mendicant under the feet of my Guru Maharaj. So on his way to Sri Rangam, his wife Anda was feeling afraid because they were going through dark forests. She said, I'm afraid. He said, why are you afraid? Did you bring anything with you? She said, I only brought one. Of all our wealth, I only kept one thing, a golden bowl to feed you. He said, that's why you're afraid. As long as you own anything and you're attached to it, then you will be afraid. So they took that bowl and threw it in the forest, and from that day on, the rest of their lives, they were fearless. So Indra, he was afraid. I have so much. I have so much. If he's getting powers, he may take it away. So he sent Kamadev. And Kamadev brought his entourage. Now, we don't want to know so much about Kamadev's entourage. Even hearing about it creates disturbance of the mind. But still, I'll speak something. There was Urvasi, and there was Menaka, and so many. They were all there. A whole host of beautiful damsels, and they were spraying fragrances, and they were dancing, and they were singing and tinkling their bells, and everything that brings a passion out in man was manifested fully there. So Ikshvaku, after a long time, he opened his eyes, he looked at them, and he offered his obeisances to all of the apsaras. Cupid was so angry, he just shot the arrow of Kama right into his heart. And then he offered his obeisances to Cupid. And he considered them special guests. And in the Vedic tradition, a guest is supposed to be treated like Lord Narayan himself. So he was offering them Argya and Padma and Achman and all of these nice articles of worship and honoring them. And they were totally embarrassed. He had no lust. He had no anger. He was just offering them respect and honor. So they were just standing like statues, stunned. And they had to go back to Indra and tell him. Before they went back to Indra, they said, "We bless you that Ranganath comes down, and all your desires are fulfilled." And Indra came. He brought his thunderbolt. But as soon as he brought out his thunderbolt, Ikshvaku just prayed at the lotus feet of Lord Ranganath, and Ranganath's Sudarshan chakra came and neutralized Indra. And ultimately the news came to Lord Brahma that Ikshvaku was doing so much austerity with such a spirit of selfless devotion to bring Ranganath to the earth. Should I continue? So Lord Brahma was feeling not afraid, he was feeling heartbroken that he came before Ranganath in Satyaloka and wept tears. He bathed the deity of Ranganath with these tears. He said, "My Lord, Ikshvaku's doing all this tapasya. Are you going to leave me and go to earth? If you leave me and go to earth, then how will I live? You are my life, you are my soul, you are my everything. Worshipping you is my heart, my love. Please don't leave." Ranganath replied that Ikshvaku is serving me with great love and devotion. I must go to the earth to satisfy his desire. But have no fear, because there's a different time zone in the earth. He said, "You worship me in the morning for Mangalarti. And after you do your morning puja, I'll go down to Ayodhya. And later on, you'll see, I'll also go to the banks of the Kaveri. And because the time of Brahmaloka and the time of the earth is so different," he said, "I'll be there for the span of many, many manus. For a span of tens of millions of years, I'll be on earth. And by the time it's time for the noon offering, I'll come back here to Brahmaloka. So you will not miss a single offering to me. You do offering, I'll go down to earth. By their calculation, millions of years. By yours, I'll be back for the next offering." So Lord Brahma was very happy. And then Lord Brahma himself put Ranganath on the back of his swan in his vimana and and Lord Brahma came down, descended to the earth, to Ayodhya, and fulfilled all the desires of Ikshvaku. Now I will begin today's class. So Ikshvaku built a beautiful temple and worshipped Sri Ranganath as his life and soul in the holy city of Ayodhya. And many, many generations later, there was King Dasarath. King Dasarath was such a wonderful king. He satisfied all of his citizens like a father to his children. But he had no son. So he was performing a yajna for that purpose. And he invited many, many great kings who were his friends from all around the world to attend. And one of those kings was named Dharmavarman, the king of the Chola dynasty. He was the king of the place we are sitting today. Now when Dharmavarma saw the beauty of Ranganath, his heart melted in ecstatic love. And what is the nature of love? You want to serve. He wanted to serve Ranganath so dearly. And he was thinking that Ikshvaku performed great tapasya to bring Ranganath from Satyaloka to Ayodhya. I am going to perform the same type of tapasya to bring Ranganath from Ayodhya to the banks of the Kaveri river near Chandrapushkarini. So after the yajna, Dharmavarma Raj came back to this place, and on the banks of this kund that we are beside, Chandrapushkarini, he performed great austerities, meditating on the Lord and chanting his holy names, praying for his appearance in Sri Rangam. Meanwhile, Dasarath Maharaj had 4 children: Ramchandra, Bharat, Lakshman, Satrughna. Ram and the whole family, the Ishtadev of Ayodhya was Ranganath, because he was the worshipable deity of all of their forefathers, of the whole Ikshvaku dynasty. Sri Ram was banished for 14 years, and during the last year Sita was abducted by Ravana, provoking Sri Ramchandra along with the monkeys, headed by Sugriva and Hanuman. They went to Rameshwaram, which is our next stop. Now please beware. We have to deal with bus drivers and new accommodations when we get to Rameshwaram. But just meditate on Ikshvaku. But it was from Rameshwaram that Sri Ramchandra built the bridge across to Sri Lanka and fought that great battle, defeated Ravana. And then Lord Ram coronated Ravana's younger brother, Vibhishan, as king, and brought Vibhishan back to Ayodhya with him, where Ramchandra performed the Rajasuya Yajna and the whole coronation ceremony. When Vibhishan was told by Ram to go back to Sri Lanka and be king, Vibhishan did not want to go. He had surrendered his life, his heart, to Lord Ramchandra. How can I live in separation from you, my Lord? Not possible. I don't want to be a king. I don't want anything. I only want your loving service. Vibhishan was the personification of this verse of Lord Chaitanya. Na dhanam na janam na sundarim kavitam vajagatisha kamaye mama janamani janmanishwari bhavatad bhakti rohiti kitvai. I do not want wealth. I do not want the beauty of the opposite sex. I do not want fame or prestige or even followers. I do not even want liberation from suffering. I only want your service, my Lord. Birth after birth after birth, unconditionally. Unconditionally means on your terms, my Lord, not on my terms. Unconditional devotional service means like that I will serve you according to your terms, Krishna, not according to my plans and my terms. We can make our plans, but ultimately surrender means whatever Krishna your terms are, I am your servant. Manaso deho geho jo kichu meho arbilum tu apade nanda kishore. My body, my mind, my wealth, my home, my family, my life, it is all your property, O Nanda Kishore. This was the mood of Vibhishan. What do I want the beautiful golden city of Sri Lanka? What do I want all the power of being the king? I only want to render menial service to you as the servant of your servants. Let me just remain one of your humble menial servants here in Ayodhya rather than be king there. In Milton's Paradise Lost, Satan has said, better to reign in hell than to serve in heaven. Hare Krishna. That is the mentality that Maya tries to put in our heart. But for Vibhishan, better to serve in a menial position than to be the king of the world. But Ramchandra said, no, it is your duty. You must go to Sri Lanka to be king. And Sri Ramchandra, just to express his love and gratitude to Vibhishan, Ramchandra gave to him the Ishtadev of his entire dynasty. Ramchandra said, you can take Ranganath with you to Sri Lanka and worship him there for the rest of your life, and you should know that he is not different from me. Hare Krishna. Vibhishan was so happy, so honored that Ram was going to come with him to live forever in Sri Lanka in his beautiful form of Ranganath Swami. So Vibhishan was carrying him. And meanwhile, Dharma Varaman was still performing his tapasya. Now some of the sages and rishis and brahmins of this area, they said to Dharma Varaman, why are you doing all this tapasya? Kings don't have to do this. We're sages and rishis. We do this. We do this for you. You don't have to do it. Besides that, you're totally pious. Your kingdom is totally pious. You don't have to atone for anything. But Dharma Varman said, I am doing this to bring Ranganath, the Lord of my life. And the sages told him that long ago the benediction was given that Ranganath will come to live here. So the king, Dharma Varman, built a beautiful place for Ranganath. All other general public are stopped for our darshan. We need to form this by 1:45 p.m. But this other side is something different. Huh? Which one? So which is the one I should follow? The one I read or the one I didn't read? Okay. So we still have 5 minutes. Where did we leave off? So Dharmavarman made a nice place for him here. And when Vibhishan was passing by this area, he placed Ranganath down between the two rivers, two branches of the river Kaveri on the banks of Chandra Pushkarini, so that Dharmavarman, who was Vibhishan's good friend, could perform puja. And then Dharmavarman said to Vibhishan that actually there's a 9-day festival that has been celebrated by the Ikshvaku dynasty since time immemorial, and that time has come now. So let us worship him for the next 9 days here. So Vibhishan said, yes, 9 days. And they performed the pujas, and they had a grand festival for Ranganath. At the end of 9 days, when Vibhishan went to pick up Ranganathji, Ranganath would not move. Vibhishan cried. Tears flowed and washed the Lord's lotus feet. Vibhishan said, I cannot live without you, my Lord. Why are you not moving? And Ranganathji said that this is my home on earth. King Dharmavarman and all of these devotees here, they love me so much. And you also love me so much. And because you love me, you only want what I want. What will give me the greatest pleasure is to stay here between these two rivers of the Kaveri. And Vibhishan said, that is a wonderful idea. I will also stay here. He was really detached. And Ranganath said, no, Ramchandra has already coronated you the king of Sri Lanka, you must go there. He said, but I will lay here, and I will always be facing in the direction of Sri Lanka. And you should always know that I am watching you, and you will always feel me. You will always feel my presence. Now you go and you perform your service. So Vibhishan returned to Sri Lanka, and Sri Ranganath remained here. Dharmavarman built a beautiful temple, a magnificent temple. However, after many, many generations went by, due to floods and storms, the deity and the temple were gone. One of the descendants of Dharmavarman, of the name King Kili, he was one time walking in this place, and a parrot was singing the glories of Ranganath and saying that right under your feet in this sand, O King Kili, is Vaikuntha Loka, and Ranganath is living. Yes? So he dug, and he found the ancient temple, and found the deity of Ranganath, and built a magnificent temple. Tomorrow, we will explain more on the subject of this temple and how it was built. It is quite an extraordinary story. But I will say one thing before we leave. Parasarabhatar explained one thing that's very important when we have darshan of Ranganath. Ranganath is Mahavishnu. He's laying on Anantashesha with Lakshmi Devi on his chest, being worshipped by all the devatas. He has beautiful lotus-like eyes, neck like swirling like a conch shell, a nose sweet like a sesame flower, lips like the bimba fruit. His thighs are like the trunks of elephants, and he has a very special gesture in his hands. One hand is directing us to his face, and the other hand is directing us to his feet. Now, what does that mean? Ranganath is saying the goal of life is for you to see, is for my face to smile. This is the goal of your life, that my face smiles. And how will you make my face smile? By taking shelter of my lotus feet. And how do we take shelter of his lotus feet? By being the servant of the great Vaishnavas and crying out his holy name. So now, Shri Murli Bhatt Prabhu has stopped all of the thousands of pilgrims so that we can have an exclusive darshan. But I'm going to give an instruction that I hope you all follow carefully. If you want to see Sri Ranganath, not with your eyes, but with your hearts. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, do not try to see Krishna, but try to serve Krishna in such a way that he wants to see you. Krishna reveals himself according to how he's pleased with us. If we're trampling on devotees and pushing old ladies and old men and making babies cry and stepping on other people's heads and their feet and cramping in front of them, and you may be first in line to see Ranganath. But Ranganath is not going to be happy to see you. So we should be very polite. We should be very eager to give other people the opportunity. And the line should be a very civilized line. Letting senior devotees and older people before us. And this is the way we should always go for every darshan, wherever we go. We should have enthusiasm, but our enthusiasm should not only be to see the Lord, but to serve the devotees in such a way that the Lord wants to see us. So now, let us very enthusiastically go for the blessed darshan of Sri Ranganath Swami. Forgive any offenses I have made. Thank you very